So I haven't played War of the Visions, so this does feel like a spoiler. But then again, speaking from a brave Exvius perspective, I guess we can't complain. King of Leonis Mont's Trustmaster reward is a materia that boosts HP by 50%, and when a sword is equipped, grants Beast Killer Plus and Human Killer Plus. It's very strong solely due to the dual killers, and the HP boost is a nice touch. No complaints here. His Super Trustmaster reward is an accessory of high HP, defense, and a bit of spirit. When equipped onto a tank, it grants access to several abilities. First is Boon of the Lion, a one-time Grandest ability which gives your team a HP barrier. The second is Heroism of the Lion, a passive which boosts limit burst damage by 50%, HP by 100%, and equipment defense by 50% while your unit's carrying a single weapon with or without a shield. Now while it does have a lot of strong points, it's heavily skewed towards tank units, the majority of which aren't going to be hitting any high damage benchmarks anytime soon. And while those tank units will certainly benefit from the stats this accessory offers, stats generally take a step back to things like elemental resistance or evasion, though that's not to say they're not important. Anyways, onto his active abilities. Mont has access to Protecka, which should be awakened further, and Cover Physical 1, which can also be awakened further. It's just such a shame they're not. Dual Break deals non-elemental damage which scales off his defense and Chains of Absolute Mirror of Equity, while lowering attack and magic by 85%. Mercy's Grace can be used once per battle, raising your team's elemental resistance by 100% for a single turn. Proclamation is a provoke, but also gives Mont a 75% physical and magic mitigation buff. Iron Blow can only be used once per battle. It removes buffs, and well, that's pretty much it. Claws of the Young Lion can also only be used once per battle. It inflicts a 20% sword imperil, then deals much more damage than Iron Blow. Passives. With his Trustmaster reward or Super Trustmaster reward equipped, Mont gets a big boost to his limit burst damage and equipment defense when carrying a single weapon. The man also has several killers, though he excels best against beasts. He doesn't have any limit burst damage buffs without his locked passive, though he does have a small boost to his limit burst regen and physical evasion. He prefers to carry a single weapon, and meets half the boost of the chain limit cap. At the start of the battle, he automatically activates Preemptive Cover, Physical, which activates a weak physical cover for your team. His normal attack has been changed to Resolve to Fight for Generations, which throws in an 80% attack and magic break. He also has a very big boost to Passive Provoke, 70 out of 100%. When he's hit, he might also counterattack with Astrologer's Protection, which restores a bit of HP. At EX plus 2, he gets Unleash Power, which is a better version of Warring Spirit by virtue of no upper limit. At EX plus 3, he gets more defense. His elemental resistance is nothing to scoff at. I mean, look at that foundation! Let's look at his limit burst. It inflicts fire damage that scales off his defense, inflicts an 87% attack break and an 85% magic break, gives your team a 70% physical and magical mitigation buff, a 70% physical mitigation buff, I just said that doesn't sound right, and gives your team an additional 75% physical mitigation buff against beast and human enemies. With his super limit burst, Mont has access to defense shift. When his super limit burst is ready, Mont gets an automatic 250% defense buff, a 200% limit burst damage buff, and fills his limit burst gauge. His super limit burst deals even stronger fire damage, raises the attack break to 89% and the magic break to 85%, the mitigations rise to 75%, and the species mitigation rise to 85%. Let's rank Brave abilities. He has 1, and raising it just raises the damage modifier, not the breaks. So, EX2. As a super limit burst user, Mont automatically benefits from additional EX awakenings. Furthermore, at EX plus 2, he gets Unleash Power, which fills even more limit burst crystals than Warring Spirit. Mont's limit burst can be very useful at the beginning of a fight, and given that he doesn't have a way to fill his limit burst gauge without this passive, it's pretty appreciated. At EX plus 3, stats. It's not as important for a tank as it is a damage dealer, but I guess Mont can deal damage. Of course, it doesn't make it any cheaper. So how good is King of Leonis Mont? Upon release, he's one of the best physical tanks we've got. Active abilities, passives, limit bursts, they're all very suited to withstand strong blows. But despite being a great physical tank, he's got some weird flaws. His grandest abilities have nice effects, but they can't be used again. Ultimately, the support, while potent, isn't reliable, so you'll probably have to bring another unit to cover those buffs. Now, granted, things like 100% elemental resistance isn't as simple as it sounds, and with enemies learning how to dispel buffs, it never hurts to keep extra in store. On another note, the defensive numbers for Mont are rather reminiscent of Runda, who also happens to be free. However, Runda's EX plus 3 isn't actually available, while Mont's EX plus 3 is expensive. Unfortunately, Mont does also suffer from a few other points. Despite being a breaker, he's not technically a breaker, and despite dealing damage, he's not technically a damage dealer. Japan, why? Ultimately, Mont is a great physical tank who really could have been more, but even with that being said, he's still a really good physical tank. Thanks for watching, and if you liked this video, leave a like and subscribe. Comment below if you plan to get King of Leonis Mont. I have no idea what's going on in War of Divisions, but tell me, did we ever find out what happened to the other stage of Hess? What about Gilgamesh? Or are they getting the global original storyline treatment?